You know those people who just seem to get other people? It's like they have a superpower, right? They can walk into a room and instantly read the vibe. They can tell when someone's not being straight with them. They just understand what's not being said. Well, what if I told you it's not a superpower? What if it's a skill that anyone can learn? That's exactly what we're going to get into, using Patrick King's work to turn this art form into a science. So let's start with the big question. Why is this so hard in the first place? Well, the biggest problem is that every single person we meet is basically a mystery, a complete black box. All their thoughts, their feelings, their true intentions, they're all locked away inside. All we've got to work with are the clues they give off on the outside. So let me ask you something straight up. Do you think you're a good judge of character? I mean, most of us would say, yeah, of course. But here's the kicker. We're usually not nearly as good as we think we are. It's just how our brains are wired, you know? We tend to remember that one time we totally nailed it, and we kind of just forget about all the times we were way off base.
Okay, so what's tripping us up? Well, it turns out there are a few common mental traps we all fall into. First, there's confirmation bias, which basically makes us way too sure of ourselves. Then we completely ignore context. I mean, think about it. Is someone fidgeting because they're lying, or are they just crazy nervous for a job interview? Big difference. We also do this thing where we grab onto one single clue, like crossed arms, and boom, we've made up our entire mind about the person. And finally, we forget that culture changes the rules for everything, from how much eye contact is normal to what a simple hand gesture means.
So if our brains are kind of wired to get this wrong, how do we fix it? Where do we even start? Well, the first step is to stop just looking at what's on the surface. We need to go deeper and start decoding the hidden drivers that are really pulling the strings. A really fascinating place to start is with this idea from the psychologist Carl Jung. It's called the shadow. The shadow is basically all the parts of ourselves we don't like, the stuff we push down and try to hide, even from ourselves. The classic example is a bully, right? That loud, aggressive front. So often, it's just a cover, a way to hide their own deep-seated fears of being weak. Just remember, what people show you on the outside is often a direct reaction to what they're trying to hide on the inside. And then there's this beautifully simple idea from Freud, the pleasure principle. And it boils down to this. Pretty much everything we do, every single decision, is about one of two things. Either we're moving towards something good, or we're moving away from something bad. Seek pleasure, avoid pain. Simple as that. But, and this is the really important part, those two forces are not created equal. Not even close. The drive to avoid pain is way, way stronger than the drive to gain pleasure. Just think about it, right? You would leap out of the way of a speeding car without a second thought. Our brains are hardwired for survival, and that means avoiding danger always comes first. And to avoid that pain of feeling wrong or ashamed, our egos get pretty sneaky. They have this whole toolbox of what we call defense mechanisms, which are basically just little lies we tell ourselves to feel better. You see it all the time. There's denial, like when you get a bad report at work and your first thought is, nah, that can't be right. Or rationalization, the athlete who gets cut from the team and says, whatever, the coach just had it in for me anyway. We do this stuff without even realizing it. Okay, so we've got all these powerful, hidden forces bubbling under the surface, but how do we actually see them? Well, that's where the body comes in, because you can lie with your words, but it's a lot harder to lie with your body. The body rarely lies. And get ready for this number. Some research suggests that a whopping 55% of our communication is nonverbal. 55%. Let that sink in for a second. That means if you're only paying attention to the words someone is saying, you are literally missing more than half of the entire conversation. And a huge piece of that 55% are these things called microexpressions. They're like these tiny, super fast emotional leaks that flash across a person's face. We're talking fractions of a second. Someone can be saying, oh yeah, I'm totally fine. But for just a split second, you see the corners of their eyes droop. That's the real story. And the coolest part? They're universal. Happiness, sadness, anger, they look the same on a face in New York as they do in Tokyo. And it's not just our faces. Our whole body is constantly sending signals. You've got pacifying behaviors. When someone under stress starts rubbing their neck or fiddling with their hair, that's them trying to calm themselves down. Then there are blocking gestures. Crossing your arms isn't just about being cold. It's literally creating a barrier when you feel defensive. And on the flip side, when we feel powerful, we expand. We take up space.
Think of that classic superhero power pose. It's a simple rule. Confident bodies get bigger, threatened bodies get smaller. All right, this is great. We've got hidden drivers, microexpressions, body language. We have all these clues. But how do we actually use them without falling into those same old traps we talked about? Well, you need a system, a framework to keep you honest.
And here it is, your 3 golden rules for getting it right. Rule number 1, establish a baseline. This is huge. You have to know what's normal for a person before you can spot something weird. You're looking for a change from their normal behavior. Rule number 2, look for clusters. Never, ever rely on just one signal. One crossed arm, maybe they're just chilly. But crossed arms, plus a tight jaw, plus they're leaning back, okay, now that's a cluster, that's a pattern, and it probably means something. And rule number 3, always consider the context. The situation changes everything. So, we've covered how to decode their inner world, their hidden drivers, and their body language. But there's one last clue to consider. And honestly, it might be the most important one of all. This quote from the book just says it all. You see, the biggest blind spot when we try to read other people is ourselves. It's so true. We don't see people as they are. We see them through the filter of who we are. We're constantly projecting our own stuff, our own fears, our own assumptions, our own history onto them, and we don't even realize we're doing it. And that brings us to the core message of all this. True accuracy in reading other people doesn't start by looking at them. It starts by looking in the mirror. You absolutely have to understand yourself first. What are your biases? What are your emotional triggers? Knowing that stuff is the foundation for everything else. So I'll leave you with this final thought. What if this whole skill isn't about becoming a human lie detector or gaining some kind of advantage? What if learning to read other people is actually a journey to developing deeper self-awareness, real empathy, and a much more profound connection with everyone around you?